These are the 10 best pairs of Vans that you can grab in 2024. For over the last half century, Vans has created some of the most iconic, good-looking, and affordable shoes ever made. And even in 2024, it doesn't seem like Vans is slowing down anytime soon. In today's video, I'm showing you the 10 pairs of Vans that are available right now that are perfect for any situation. Whether you're trying to put together a fire fit, go skateboarding, or even go hiking, there's a shoe on the list for you. Of course, if you see any shoes that you like, I've made sure to link all of the sneakers that we talk about in today's video through the YouTube shopping tab and through the links in the description below. But with that being said, let's dive right into it. Number 10, the Vans MTE2. While sure, Vans started as purely just skateboarding and lifestyle sneakers, over the last couple decades, they've slowly grown their influence across a bunch of different categories. And with examples like the Skate High MTE2, Vans has shown us that they can create not only solid trail shoes, but also solid outdoor boots. While the shoe shares design cues from the popular Skate High, this is truly a trail boot, one that can withstand the elements just as good as other boots out there. Vans touts the Skate High MTE2 as a waterproof boot, and that's apparently because of the internal Hydro Guard liner, which is not only stretchy, but watertight. In addition to that, this shoe is also very warm in cold wintry conditions because of their PrimaLoft insulation, which according to Vans is a microfiber insulation system that feels like down, but really keeps the heat inside the shoe. Of course, because this shoe is a boot, it's got to have an all-new traction pattern. You can't be using your standard waffle soles on the ice. Vans calls this outsole the All-Track MTE2 outsole. And when it comes to comfort and support, this shoe feels great on foot. It's true to size, it's very plush, and it keeps your feet warm. And to increase the step in comfort, Vans has added an Ultra Cush insole to make this shoe feel a little bit softer underneath your feet. While sure, the MTE2 does cost more than most of the other pairs of Vans on the list, you are getting a decent amount for the money, and this shoe is still cheaper than most of the other boots out there. Plus, visually, I like the way this shoe looks. It's still got that rugged boot-like vibe, but it definitely has a bit more of a laid-back feel to it. Number 9, the Vans Skate High. So we just talked about the trail version of this shoe, but now let's talk about the original, the Vans Style 38, aka the Vans Skate High. First released back in 1978, the Vans Skate High is one of the most iconic high-top skateboarding shoes of all time. The Skate Highs come primarily in a canvas upper, accented by suede hits on the heel and on the toe for added durability. And of course, the look wouldn't be complete without the iconic side stripe on the midfoot of the shoe. Sizing-wise, the Skate High does fit pretty much true to size, at least when it comes to length. However, if you have wider feet, the shoe has been known to fit a little bit narrow, so maybe go up half a size. Not only are the Vans Skate High an incredibly iconic high-top sneaker that look amazing even to this day, they're also priced really well at just $75. I mean, let's be real, I can only really think of like one other high-top sneaker that's anywhere close to as good looking as this shoe that's priced even in the same ballpark. I mean, in my opinion, this shoe is the clear winner when it comes to great looking high top sneakers in this price point. Number 8, the Vans Era. According to Vans, the Era was the first skateboarding shoe designed for skateboarders by skateboarders. It essentially took the style of the Vans Authentic and morphed it into something a lot more skateboarding friendly by doing things like adding padding around the ankle collar. And I know it doesn't sound like much today, but back in 1976, that was groundbreaking. It also was the first time that we saw the off-the-wall branding on the heel of the shoe. The Vans Era comes in a canvas upper accented by some extra details that you don't have on the Vans Authentic, like metal eyelets for added durability. And like most other pairs of Vans, the look is rounded off with a vulcanized midsole and waffle outsole. When it comes to sizing, the Vans Era does fit pretty much true to size. Again, they can be a little bit narrow, but for most people, I'd say true to size is fine. And for $55, it's hard not to own a couple pairs of Eras because they come in so many different colors, they look so good, and they're only $55. Number 7, the Vans Slipon. Man, talk about shoes that have been popular for decades. The Vans Slipon, specifically in the checkerboard colorway, is one of the most iconic sneakers of all time. So I'm in my 30s now, but I grew up in the peak Warped Tour era, the time that everyone was going to Warped Tour every single year and all your favorite bands were going to be there, and everyone was wearing the Vans checkered slip-ons. While this look might not be as prevalent as it once was, it's still an incredibly popular sneaker, and that iconic checkerboard style is one that will never go away. And it's also one of the only slip-on shoes that's actually socially acceptable. The Vans slip-on comes with a padded collar, elastic accents around the side of the shoe to make it easier to get your foot in there, and of course it features a vulcanized midsole and the waffle outsole. And I can't overstate how great it is to be able to have a pair of shoes that you can literally slide your feet into when you leave the house and then kick off when you get back to the house. And they look good. Like really, really good. And finding a pair in your size isn't that difficult. One, because they make so many pairs of them, but two, because they fit true to size. And the best part is they only cost $60. And if they ever bring Warped Tour back, you know I'm going on a pair of checkered slip-ons. Number 6, the Vans Authentic. When I say that this is a pair that started it all, this literally is the shoe that started it all for Vans. First released back in 1966 as the first pair of shoes that Vans ever made, the Authentic is an icon in the sneaker world. Sure, it's simple by today's standards, but the simplicity is what makes this shoe so special. So actually, before I got into sneaker YouTube back in like 2010, and even before that, I used to customize sneakers, and the shoes that I learned on were the Vans Authentic. One, because they looked amazing, but two, because it was such a great canvas for creativity. I may have stole that phrase from Vans' website, but it's true, I did customize Authentics. The upper of the Authentics come in canvas, accented by metal lace eyelets. Of course, you've got that vulcanized midsole and that waffle outsole. And actually, like a lot of other pairs of Vans on this list, even some of the shoes that we've already talked about, you can get the comfy cush version of this sneaker, which essentially is the slightly more padded version of the shoe. It's a bit more expensive, but it does give you a bit more padding underfoot. However, as good as the comfy cush feels underfoot, there are some visual differences between the standard version and the comfy cush version. The comfy cush version's midsole is a little bit thicker, which you do notice, and that can look a little bit weird. So if comfort's your main thing, go with the comfy cush version, but if you don't like the way that that looks, the standard version of the Authentic is great, fits true to size, and it's only 55 bucks. Plus, it's the original. But in my opinion, you can't have the perfect fit without a perfect pair of socks to go along with your sneakers. And if you've been on the hunt for that perfect pair of socks to go perfect with all the sneakers in your collection and that feels great on foot all day, I definitely recommend my sock brand, Apothecary. I know I might seem biased because it's a sock brand that I co-founded, but still, we make some incredible socks that I definitely recommend checking out through the link at the top of your screen or in the description below. They come in a bunch of different styles, they feel great on foot, they're incredibly breathable, and they look great with all of the sneakers in your collection. So seriously, check out Apothecary for yourself, linked at the top of the screen and in the description below. Number 5, the VANS Ultra Range Neo VR3. So this shoe is a pretty large departure from what Vans has done in the past. Like I mentioned earlier on in the video, they've kind of expanded into a bunch of different footwear categories, and this is their entry into the athletic footwear category. The VANS Ultra Range originally started as an idea from a surfboarder who wanted a pair of Vans to rock while he was walking over to the place he was going to surf, usually on rocky terrain. And so the VANS Ultra Range was born. And since it first released, the shoe has gone through a couple different iterations, and now we're on the Ultra Range Neo VR3. One of the things that Vans has been trying over the last couple versions of this shoe is making this shoe as sustainable as possible. Meaning that 30% of the material used to make this shoe are recycled materials, and some of the other materials that were used are actually new sustainable technologies. The upper is made up of leather as well as mesh, which apparently is composed of 100% recycled PET textiles. The footbed is made up by at least 50% bio-based EVA foam, or at least that's what Vans says on their website. Not only that, apparently some of the foam is plant-based, which I think is kind of cool. Even the rubber used on the heel and on the toe of the outsole apparently is sustainable in some way. I'll be honest, I didn't really understand what they were talking about on their website. It's a lot of big words, but apparently good rubber. All that to say that this shoe is specifically designed to not only be a comfortable all-day sneaker, but also a shoe whose design is partially focused on sustainability. And from my own personal experience with this shoe, I've got to say that it's very comfortable on foot, it fits true to size, it's incredibly breathable because the upper is so thin and made up mostly of mesh, and the foam midsole is pretty soft underneath your feet, not to mention the shoe looks pretty good when you're wearing it. However, all of that good stuff does come at a price of $125, which yes, is more expensive than most of the other sneakers that we're going to talk about on today's list. However, it's still cheaper than a lot of other sneakers from other brands. Number 4, the VANS Sport Low. It's crazy that a brand with a shoe as simple as the VANS Authentic can create a shoe that's even simpler than that, but the VANS Sport Low seems to be exactly that. The VANS Sport Low is a truly minimal 90s inspired shoe. The upper of the shoe is made up almost entirely of like 4 different suede panels, and right in the center of the outside of the sneaker, you've got this very simple and subtle VANS V logo. Rounding off the look, you've got a gum-colored waffle outsole and vulcanized midsole, and sewn into the tongue of the sneaker is a tag that says Vans off the wall. Comfort-wise, the shoe is also very minimal. It's constructed just like a pair of Vans Authentic with pretty much no padding on the upper of the shoe except around the ankle area. However, the padding around the ankle is definitely stiffer than a pair of Vans Eras. And sizing-wise, I'd say that the Vans Sport Low fits like a pair of Eras or a pair of Authentics, which is true to size. However, it can be a bit narrow if you have wider feet. And the good news for you is if you want a pair of the Vans Sport Lows, they come in at a very reasonable price of just 70 bucks. Number 3, the Vans Lowland Comfy Cush Leather. So this shoe is quite a departure from any of the other shoes that we looked at on today's list, and that's because the upper of this shoe comes in leather. In fact, the styling around the entire upper of this shoe looks a lot less like a pair of Vans and a lot more like a pair of New Balances or a pair of Jordan 1s. And I don't know if you guys are subbed to the channel, but I love leather low top sneakers. The Air Jordan 1, the New Balance 550, all of those shoes, absolutely love them, so it's really nice to get a version of that from Vans. In this colorway in particular, the shoe kind of looks like a pair of Nike Dunk Lows, except of course with Vans paneling on the upper instead of a Nike swoosh. This 80s inspired sneaker comes with a leather and synthetic leather upper. Apparently it's a mix of both. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't feel that premium to the touch. You've got some padding around the ankle area and also a full-length comfy cush midsole, which feels amazing underfoot. In my opinion, this is a solid lifestyle choice if you're looking for a relatively comfortable shoe underfoot that doesn't break the bank. They come in at a price point of $85 and they do fit relatively true to size, but again, like most of the other pairs of Vans on the list, they can be considered narrow in some cases. I've never felt that, but if you have wider feet, you probably should go up a half size. And while this shoe doesn't feel like the most high quality shoe in the world, especially when compared to like $110 pairs of Nikes or Adidas, it's still a solid sneaker overall. It feels decent underfoot, and in my opinion, it looks pretty good. Number 2, the Vans New School. Now just to clarify, that's New School with a K. It's not spelled anything like what you'd think. The Vans New School is an updated take on the classic Vans Old School. It's basically like they took a pair of Old Schools and just pumped it full of air until it exploded. This shoe is like a super bulky, a super wide, super chunky version of the old school, and I'm kind of into it. In addition to the pretty standard suede material that you've got on the upper, you've got this incredibly thick tongue that's very, very wide and kind of pushes the sides of the sneaker apart. It does feel nice on the top of your foot though. It kind of feels like this pillow is pushing into the top of your foot. If you like that, great. If you don't, maybe avoid this one. The padding around the ankle area is also puffed as well, so it's an incredibly well-cushioned shoe on the top half of the sneaker. And then the detail that drew me most of the shoe was the 3D sculpted side stripe. I don't know, it's just kind of cool. It's kind of modern. It's very skateboardy. But because there's so much padding in the upper of the shoe, it is a little bit more difficult to get your foot into the shoe. I actually had a pretty hard time getting these on the first time. Vans did give you a pull tab on the heel to help you pull the shoe onto your feet. But once you get them on, they do fit pretty much true to size. They can be a little bit tight, again, because of that crazy padding. So if that's a problem for you, maybe go up half a size or just loosen the laces. You should be just fine. I might actually wear this shoe with the laces untied because it fits me just fine with the laces untied. But I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty wild looking shoe. But it also kind of looks like they've updated the midsole too by expanding this heel area, which I think looks fine. Of course, the shoe still features that classic gum waffle outsole that's exactly the same. It hasn't been puffed like the rest of the shoe. And actually, kind of surprisingly, this shoe does not feature a comfy cush midsole, which I would have thought would have been a given, especially because the whole rest of the shoe is so puffy. Why not make the midsole a little bit puffier? But hey, let's be honest, this is the kind of shoe that you only buy because you like the way that it looks. And if you do like the way that it looks, good news is it won't break the bank because it comes in at a retail price of just 75 bucks. Number 1, the Vans Old School. The Old School has consistently been at the top of the list every year that I do the list. If it's not number 1, it's very close. And 2024 is no different. If you're looking for the perfect pair of everyday Vans, the Old School is the way to go. I love the other shoes on the list. I think they're all great, but for me, the pair of Vans that I throw on the most often is the Vans Old School. And the reason for that is because this shoe is incredible. It's like the perfect everyday shoe. It's incredibly clean, incredibly simple, but it still looks really good on foot. You've got a primarily canvas upper accented by suede hits on the toe and on the heel. You've got your white leather side stripe, at least on this classic black and white colorway. And like the Vans era, you also have a padded ankle area. Of course, like every other pair of Vans, you've got your vulcanized midsole and your waffle outsole, but there's something about this shoe. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the simplicity. I don't know if it's the classic styling. I don't know what it is, but there's something about this shoe that just makes this the perfect everyday shoe. Since its first release back in 1977, the Old School has cemented itself as an icon in the sneaker world, and people to this day still consider this their go-to shoe. And the best part is, if you want a pair of these, they're not expensive. They're just 70 bucks. They're one of the cheaper shoes on today's list, and they come in like every color ever. And if you're trying to decide between this shoe and another classic shoe like the Air Force One, it's hard not to pick this shoe because for the same price as an Air Force One, you can have like 2 pairs of these. Sure, it might not be as comfy as an Air Force One underfoot, but it's still pretty comfy for all day wear, and they make a comfy cush version if you really need that extra plushness. When I think of Vans, the Old School is the shoe that I think of. And I'd love to know what that shoe is for you, so make sure to let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. But that pretty much wraps things up for today. If you want to grab any of the shoes that I mentioned in today's video, make sure to check them out through the description below or through the links at the top of your screen. Also, make sure to check out my sock brand Apothecary. We make the best socks out there. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you all in the next one.